Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send show. This is episode number 188, and we're here this week to talk about Metageek and what they presented at Mobility Field Day. I'm here with Roel. Hey Roel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm in my car recording.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm good. I'm still here traveling. I just finished teaching a ECSE course. It was awesome. So I'm happy to be recording here. And happy to be talking about Metageek actually. It was actually very nice to hear back from them. They presented at a previous Tech Field Day event. I think they presented when the event wasn't called Mobility Field Day. It was still called Wireless Field Day, right?
Wireless Field Day. Yeah, that was the last time they presented. And so it's long overdue to hear what's new from Metageek.
Exactly. And this time around they came and their presentation was about 1 hour long. But it was very nice to get an update from them, like you said, and it was very refreshing. Metageek is, it's a smaller size company, and the CEO here, Ryan Woodings, came along with Adam Miedema. He's the product manager, and they both came and talked about Metageek, and it was actually very nice, very refreshing to hear from them. And we had a very good discussions together between the delegates and the guys from Metageek. So it's super nice to hear that they're still working on their product, still trying to improve them, because that's products we've all liked using.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that Ryan, even though he was CEO, he's now taking a different step in the company where he's more in the engineering side now and really developing the product again, just how it was when he first was doing this early on in Metageek's company lifetime. And so he's stepping he's not really like stepping away from it, but he's not doing so much of the CEO duties, but now just really more part of the product. So I think that's really a good sign for Metageek, and hopefully we can see some of these innovations from Metageek coming out for the tools that we usually use when we're troubleshooting Wi-Fi.
And I think his title is Chief Product Officer now. So. Yeah. That's what I have for him. So yeah, you're right. I guess he's putting more focus into the product, and I guess that's what he wanted to, right? He's the one that created the company back in the days. Mm-hmm. He created if you watch the videos from the Mobility Field Day, he gives a little bit of the history of the company, and then he shows a couple of pictures where that's just him and his brother working on the product. So it's nice to see. Talking about the videos, we'll put the link in the show notes. If you go to cleartosend.net/188, you'll be able to click on the links and then watch the presentation, the Mobility Field Day presentation, and directly hear what they had to say. And also we included a couple of blog articles written by both the delegates and the guys from Metageek on what they presented. So if you want to have different views, if you want to see what different people are saying about their presentations, you can go and read these articles. So let's jump right into it and talk about Metageek first. Maybe you guys have never heard of them. Maybe you need us to introduce the company to you guys, and then we'll talk about what's new with them, what they're trying to focus on nowadays, and where they're going in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's start off with who Metageek is and what they do.
Yeah, so Metageek is they provide tools, right, for Wi-Fi engineers or network technicians or IT technicians in general. They provide Wi-Fi tools to do some monitoring, troubleshooting. right? So they've been known for some key product that they've been offering so far. I would say the most famous one is called Insider. It's written INSSIDER, so that you have the SSID inside the Insider, and this tool is pretty much a Wi-Fi scanner, right? So you're gonna use it to scan the environment, and it's gonna detect all the APs around you, and it's gonna give you a good sense of what type of or Wi-Fi environment you have around you. So it's been a tool, very popular tool. They have different versions of it. You can use it on Windows. I think they have a Mac version.
They had a Mac version, but it wasn't really kept up to date. But I remember hearing a comment on the video saying they may have an interest again in developing Mac OS application versions of their current applications.
Yes, that's what Adam was saying. He's saying that they're seriously looking at, porting the product, I guess, or developing the new product on macOS as well. They understand it's it's a requirement nowadays for most engineers. It might not be true for every countries in the world, right? But in the US, it's you have a lot of companies now providing, Mac computers to their employees. So you have a lot of macOS out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they did say they're looking at it more seriously now. Remember when we had, did we have Ryan on the show previously, and he was saying that they did a survey on the website, and then no one was really requesting for macOS applications? Oh no, that was Joel. That was Joel.
No, it was Joel. Yeah. I still think that Windows dominates the industry, and Mac is still a very small community of people. The Wi-Fi engineers specifically, Mac is still a small piece of the pie there for operating systems.
Yeah. So, we'll talk about the different products they offer because they also have new product they're working on that might solve those type of issues as well. If you just want to keep on listening to us.
Yeah. And so some of the other applications that they have Channelizer, which maybe some of you guys are very familiar with when it comes to doing spectrum analysis at an affordable price, right? Because there's a lot of spectrum analyzers out there. Many of them cost thousands and thousands of dollars for really good spectrum analyzers. But if you need something mobile, you can have a USB device that will scan the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz spectrum. So that was a very popular product from Metageek. And I believe that USB dongle also worked with Adrian's Wi-Fi Explorer Pro tool, and you were able to show some spectrum on that application as well.
Yes, and their Wi-Fi DBX Spectrum card also works with the Ekahau. You can connect it in Ekahau.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you can do that with your surveys and capture spectrum that way.
So Channelizer, which is the spectrum analyzer, they had Insider, which is the Wi-Fi scanner, and then they have the IPA application, which is a packet capture, a packet capture tool, analyzer, I guess I should say, where you can just do some packet capture, analyze the packets.
And it gives it to you visually, which I think is the most appealing part of that application. Because if you've dealt with Wireshark, it's not really the easiest application to look at packets. But IPA, which is spelled EYEPA, that will. Just like, except this one will analyze things, analyze packets for you, and give you a visualization of what packets you've collected, right? What was the majority of those packets, and a lot more other details as well.
Yeah, IP is awesome for that, and I think a lot of people like it for that because you can actually. First, you can analyze it better, and plus that's some information you can share, with your customer if you want to put it in a report, right? It doesn't look like a whole bunch of lines and zeros and ones. That's actually data you can actually export and show to the customer, and you can, you can, for instance, explain an issue or explain some sort of behavior just by showing some graphs that you extract from the software. So it's really nice. And that's the main three software pieces of software they were known for. And earlier this year, they released a new application called Air Viewer, right? And the Air Viewer, it gives you the ability to discover the Wi-Fi environment, but from multiple platforms now. So you could install it on a iOS device, on an Android device, and you could connect a little device called the Wi-Spy Air. And we included a video and a couple of pictures of what the Wi-Spy Air is, and you can connect this device to your phone, to your tablet, and it will be used to capture data to feed into the Air Viewer application.
Yeah, it's a really nice handheld tool and application. You do need that USB Wi-Fi Air device in order to use the application, and it'll also display some of the spectrum analysis. And I actually used this when I was testing some of the Wi-Fi 6. I was looking at the spectrum, and you could actually see it on your mobile device. So for me, when I'm carrying tools, I like to carry less tools, and if I do have to carry tools, I want them to be as light as possible. And this is one of those tools you can just put in your backpack and be able to travel with it without having your bag be so heavy.
And actually, that's what you just said is actually what they were aiming for, right? During Mobility Field Day, they told us about the fact that they talked to the customer and they tried to understand what was their problem, and then they said that a lot of their customers, they didn't want to always have to, take their laptop out to do a Wi-Fi scan. They wanted something more portable, something that they could just take out of the pocket and then do a full Wi-Fi scan, something that they could rely on, not just the cheap Android application, something they could actually rely on, document and all. And that's how they came up with this idea of coming up with a USB device in which they have a Spectrum card and a Wi-Fi NIC, and they can leverage to discover the Wi-Fi environment, feed the data back to the application, and now you have a nice looking application that I can actually give you some sort of data on the environment, and it's a portable solution. You can, if you want a bigger screen, you could put it on a tablet, but it's still very portable.
Yeah, and I think some people may wonder why you have to carry an extra piece of hardware. Why can't we use the application with, say, the mobile device or the laptop? And it's because of how some of these operating systems are now being very locked down, and applications are unable to get data from certain pieces of hardware, especially the Wi-Fi card. So we have to rely on another piece of hardware that'll give you that information, but feed that information into the application itself. And so that's why we have this, you have the Wi-Spy Air utility, and then using it with the application called Air Viewer, then you could see all that information populate.
And on top of that, it gives you access to advanced features. So, for instance, on the Air Viewer application, when you leverage that Wi-Spy Air, what you can actually do is you can select a specific channel that you want to scan, and then the Wi-Spy Air will only scan this channel. So you will actually pick up more information about that specific channel, right?
Yep.
What you can also do with some of the advanced features that the Air Viewer is providing is client details. So on top of detecting the APs used in the environment, they also detect the clients that are exchanging data and clients that are connected to these APs, and you can actually go and click on the client and get more information from that specific client. You could see if that client roamed. You can see the different roaming events between which AP, between which clients. You can also get the channel health, including the Spectrum data, right? But because you can leverage both data you get from the Spectrum chip and the Wi-Fi chip and try to correlate the two and provide more value to the user. So they actually do that using the AirViewer application. And something that also they do within the application, which is actually pretty nice, or the tool do it, but they do the context-based scanning. So they don't always scan all the channels. If, let's say, in the application, you're looking at one specific API, the application will look at, on which channels are used by that specific API, and then it will ask the WiSpy Air to only scan those specific channels, so you can actually get more data when you look at the API on the application.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really smart feature to add, because if you start drilling into specific devices or APs, you don't want the device to start spending that dwell time on channels you're not really looking at, right? So once you've started looking at a specific AP, you want to see more accurate information. So it'll spend its time scanning on those specific channels. So I think that's a really smart feature to add.
Yeah, it's really nice. The context-based scanning is really nice. And they include it in other tools as well. So all of this is nice, right? But it's not really new. Wasn't really new at the time of Mobility Field Day. They announced the application earlier this year, the WiSpy equipment as well. So what was new, right? What was new at Mobility Field Day? What was new is actually a new product they're launching, and the name of this new product is called Rampart. And what they're trying to do with Rampart is they're trying to consolidate all the data they can gather from their different applications, and then collaborate. Have a tool that they can use, like a cloud-based interface that they can use, so they can actually exchange the data coming from different application, different source, and they can collaborate, use those tools, use this data and collaborate as a team. And have something that's a little bit more that doesn't operate in different silos, right? So what they realize is right now, Insider is operating as a single application in its silo, and then same thing with IPH Analyzer and AirViewer. And what they want to try to do is having a cloud platform that could tie everything together, gathering data from all these different applications and try to correlate the data, add some more analysis to it, maybe down the road add some intelligent or artificial intelligence, maybe some machine learning to improve the actual value they can provide with their products.
I think this makes a lot of sense, being that they have a lot of handheld tools and applications. So why not combine all that data for better analysis and better troubleshooting? I think it looked like a common theme for Mobility Field Day 4 for any company that has handheld tools. Is the question is, when can you combine this data for analysis with your team, collaborate it with your team, have different people maybe doing different tasks. So maybe one person's using Insider while one person is using AirViewer, for example, and being able to upload that instantly and then be able to work more efficiently. So this is a good step forward for Metageek in combining the information from their tools. I'd like to see how this develops, right? Like how exactly are they going to correlate that data and present it to you?
Yeah, you're right. It was a common theme across the different companies. I think if you work, in a team of engineers, it's a very, very useful thing to have. You can actually have someone on site, technicians doing some measurements, then uploading the measurements back to the cloud. Maybe calling a colleague or calling a senior engineer to get a second point of view on the data collected. Maybe help troubleshooting, and you can do all of this remotely, and you have somewhere to document everything, right? You can go back and say, at that time of the day, this is what I've measured, this is a snapshot I got, and then you could go back, do some changes. You realize that one AP is down, or you realize it's a wrong channel. You do some changes, you go back, you take a second snapshot, and then now from this web interface, you can go back in time and see that, okay, did I fix the issue? Yes, I fixed the issue. And you have it documented. You can, take a screenshot or export it, send it to the customer. This was the issue. We fixed it. or send it to your boss. And it's a very nice way to document everything and share the information.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's good for remote hands as well, for maybe a person that might not be as like at an engineer level, but maybe you need someone to capture data for you. You could send them these tools and they can do, hit start and do the scan and then have it upload for you. And you don't have to spend time traveling out there to get this data.
I just from a customer standpoint, it just feels like nowadays it becomes hard to choose which tool you want, right? Because every company out there is like providing their own dashboard, own analytics, own tools, own cloud services. So it becomes challenging.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be a lot of overlap with different companies, and I think some of them will be better than others. But maybe with this API development, we can somehow tie it into the same report and be able to export that data and import it into a document that you need to present to whoever you need to.
Yeah. So I think they did say they don't have an API yet for Rampart, but it's probably going to come down the road. Because everyone seems to be asking for APIs nowadays, so it's standard feature, I guess. And this product it's still pretty new, right? So right now, what Rampart does is, if you go on site and you have Insider on your laptop, you can discover the environment. So that's what they call a snapshot. Take a snapshot. So taking a snapshot is pretty much scanning all the channels, discovering which APs are around, which clients are around, getting some Wi-Fi metrics, channel utilization, and so on. And then you can save that snapshot. You can add a little comment, a location, and it will send it to Rampart. So you can do that from Insider. And you can also do that from AirViewer. So if you have the AirViewer application on your phone, you could do that, take a snapshot. It's going to take a little while to scan everything, gather the data, and then you can upload it into Rampart. And then in Rampart, you can just retrieve the data and see all these Wi-Fi metrics. Right. So
I think that snapshot is going to be very important. It's something that I do with the tools that I use. Is you find something and you want to just capture it right away. So that's going to be probably a feature I'll use all the time.
Yeah. So this is what you can do today. I think today they didn't integrate Channelizer and IPA yet, but that's what they want to do. That's their plan, to be able to integrate different data source into Rampart. So that's kind of like their vision for the tool. But already what you can do today, it's pretty nice. We'll include some screenshot so you guys can take a look, or even if you watch the videos from Mobility Field, they showed us a demo of what the product looks like.
Now with Rampart, if you purchase any Metageek product, do you automatically have access to Rampart, or is that something extra?
Yeah, so it's going to be like a subscription-based, since it's a cloud interface, right? It's going to be a subscription-based pricing type of model. So they have different tiers. They have the Plus, Pro, and Expert.
Okay.
So with the Plus Pro, you can import a snapshot from both Insider and AirViewer. The difference, I think, between Plus and Pro is the number of sites you can have, or the number of locations and stuff like that. And then Expert will allow you to also import from the IPA and Channelizer. So the Expert is like, it's aimed for like an expert that would need all the Wi-Fi tools, right? Someone like, you and I would just do Wi-Fi all day long. We need all the Wi-Fi tools. And the Plus Pro would be more for like a technicians that go on site and check the Wi-Fi and send the data back to someone else. So they would have Insider or AirViewer or both, and they can just, gather data from there and upload it to Rampart.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then you can pay monthly or you can pay yearly, your subscription. And then on top of that, so that would be just for the subscription, and I think they will charge also for the hardware. Let's say you buy the Wi-Spy Air, you have to also purchase this on the side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something that's very nice with these cloud tools here, and as we start talking about it, is now that these tools, these Metageek tools, are not working in silos, is you can start to compare different snapshots, right? And they added this feature where you can, when you take a snapshot, when you do a Wi-Fi scan, you can add a location to it, and the system will remember that location. So let's say you go to a classroom and you say, okay, in this classroom I'm doing a snapshot right now. You upload it to Rampart and you say, okay, I was in classroom number 305. You upload it. It keeps track of the time, the date, the location, and then if you go back 1 week later, it will just remember the location, and then you can, in Rampart, when you upload that second snapshot, you can then compare those two snapshots. Right.
Okay, so how does it compare? Is it just side by side, or will it actually point out those differences to you?
So I think someone asked the exact same question. I think it was Dave. So the answer was right now you have to do like a side by side comparison. So you would look at the signal strength for the first snapshot, second signal strength from the second, try to compare. But I think that's something they want to include in the upcoming releases.
In the future, okay.
Yeah. They also have something called like a baseline, where you can, for location, you can establish a benchmark or baseline, and then depending on the snapshot you upload, it will show you like if you have a deviation or if you have something happening. That's something they want to work on as well. So for every location, you'll be able to set different thresholds. And then that will just allow you to see if something is not meeting those threshold or requirements.
I think that'll be interesting to see how they incorporate that baseline, because usually a baseline requires you to scan or collect data over a long period of time to create that baseline. With these tools, these handheld tools, we're usually just capturing on the spot for a shorter period of time, whether that be an hour or a couple of hours, unless you plan to leave this handheld tool on site and just leave it scanning continuously. That's how I could see you developing that baseline, because without gathering enough data, it'd be kind of, to me, it seems difficult to really even show some sort of anomaly in that area.
Yeah, so I guess that's when the machine learning comes into play, right? Trying to see after a little while what the baseline is, and you can actually define it that way. At the beginning, I guess it's gonna have to be a more manual process.
Yeah. And I remember when I was watching the video, somebody made a good comment because of the memorization that it has. I'm assuming it remembers the BSSID. Now, if these APs move to another location, so the example was you have a vendor doing a vendor conference, and then you take the snapshot there, and then they take that equipment and do another conference in a different location, and you do a snapshot again, it's going to think that it is the same location because of the BSSID tracking.
Yeah, so pretty much it doesn't apply in these type of scenarios, right? It wouldn't work properly in these type of scenarios.
Yeah.
Which is like...
Yeah, I think that's just something to consider. Often. Right, so I think that's just something to consider if somebody wants to use these tools for event Wi-Fi. Just remember that when you collect the data, it's going to think it's the same location every time if you're moving those same APs around.
Yes, you're right. So what type of data can you get in Rampart, right? What type of data can you see in your dashboard in Rampart? So you get all the the Wi-Fi data that you would be collecting using your Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi scanning tool Insider, and the Air Viewer. So obviously you get the list of APs, all the AP capabilities, the signal strength detected. You also get the channel utilization, and they use the QBSS element when it's available to calculate the channel utilization. If the QBSS is not there, they actually look at the packets themselves, and they look at the duration ID in the packets, and they do their own calculation of the channel utilization.
Okay.
So, which is pretty cool. You can also see the comments that the engineer on site added when he uploaded the snapshot. So right now it's you can add a comment to the location, but they're looking at in the upcoming versions to add more, more fields in the comments. You could even upload a picture or add more comments for specific snapshots. So they're looking at adding more details here.
Okay, so comments right now is just text comments.
So you can add a comment for the site and a comment for the location, and it's just text. Yes, and in the future they're working on adding a comment for the snapshot itself. So if you're doing multiple snapshots for one locations, you want to be able to, document each of them, and then add a picture to it.
Okay.
So that could be nice. You could take a picture when you do the snapshot. So if you come back 1 year later, you can see if maybe the environment changed. Maybe they added a wall.
Yeah.
Never happens, right?
Well, so speaking of walls, then, is there any integration with floor plans at all? Did you see any of that in the presentation or any comments about that?
Yeah, we asked the question. It would be nice to have a floor plan so you can actually, tell them where you took the snapshot. But they say it was an interesting idea. So we'll see. Then you can see the signal strength over time, right? If you take multiple snapshots, you can actually see the evolution of the signal strength over time for your different APs. And like I said, you can create your benchmark and see if you have any deviation from that baseline.
I think it would also be nice to get other information such as retry rates. If you're capturing down at the client level, being able to see retry rates over time or average retry rate. I think that would be useful data to collect and visualize as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's going to be pretty easy for them to do since they're actually looking at the packets, right? They're actually doing packet capture in the back end and they're looking at the packets. So, I mean, it would be easy for them to try to look at the different frames, the percentage of retry versus the total amount of frames they have and calculate the retry rates. They could even calculate retry rates per client devices.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think getting detailed into that aspect would be useful when troubleshooting client issues.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, that's what IPA gives you, right? IPA gives you this type of granularity, and I think as they keep working on the software, that's definitely something that they must have in mind, and to add it to Rampart.
Okay, cool. So there's a lot of promising features here based on just the data they're already collecting with their different applications. It's just a matter of adding it into Rampart and being able to visualize that and collect it. How about like export of that data? What did you see from Mobility Field Day that they presented on exporting the data somehow?
I can't remember.
Like
actually.
whether that be reports.
I can't remember if we talked about reporting. I'm not sure if they have a report capability to it. I don't know. I guess it would make sense. I did ask about, if you could have like a type of document that would just, certify a site. So, let's say you do a lot of small installations. You do a lot of installation for restaurants and they might have multiple locations across the country. So what you do is, you need to do a quick validation. Or let's say you're a service provider, right? And you provide a lot of Wi-Fi installation for small businesses, and when you go and validate, you don't want to do a full-on validation survey every time. You just want to make sure that the service is okay and up and running in their main area. So it would be nice to have a tool that just can do a couple of snapshots, make sure that you're meeting some set of requirements, and then generate a document, a certificate that would just say, okay, this site has been validated. You can send it to the customer, and then you close the project for that site, I guess.
Okay.
So they did say it was an interesting idea. I think it would match their target audience in terms of who will be using their products. And I think it would be a nice addition if they can come up with something like that, or something like an API that would be able to get and retrieve the data, and then someone can create their own certificate if they want to.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, for any cloud-based tools like this that's gathering analytics, you're always expecting some sort of reporting capabilities.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the different tools they have, like Channelizer, I love the report capabilities of Channelizer. And I mean, they could do the same type of if they could include the same type of features in Rampart, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. As I mean, you do reports for a lot of people, Francois, and I think having customizable reports is very important, because you want to be able to present data to somebody in a way that they could understand it. And so being able to get the specific pieces of data that you want and put it into a report will be critical.
And also, when you create report for a customer, you don't really want the report to look generated, if you see what I mean. Like, you don't want
a canned report.
Yeah, you don't want a canned report. You want something that looks more professional. You want to have you want the customer to feel like you actually put some effort into it, and instead
not just
of clicking
one
a
click
button.
And here's everything on the default report.
Yeah, because and then you end up with 100 pages you never read.
Oh yeah.
You know these reports.
Oh yeah. Like I don't ever see like a table of every single access point that's not yours displayed on a table. Like maybe like a handful of people will want that, but most people just won't care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess we'll see in terms of reporting what they come up with. Looking at the product today, and it looks like they still have a lot of work to do, right? So integrating the other application, IPH Analyzer. So I think we need to give them a little bit of time, and then little by little, the product will the Rampart will be building up, I guess.
Yeah, I think they just need more feedback from other professionals and what they'd like to see in the product, and that's how they will develop their list of priorities, just like any other company that we all work with. So if you guys have questions or comments, I'm sure they'll take it.
Yeah, and they're very like they listen to their users, and they listen to their customers a lot. So I'm sure if they have some good ideas and some good use cases, I'm sure you'll be able to share that with them. All right, and the last thing they talked about is some new features they're working on. Right, I don't think it's quite available yet. They did show us a demo of it, so it's something that's public and you can go check out if you look at the videos. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to get more information from the client side into Insider, and then eventually into Rampart, right? And the way they do that is they leverage additional Wi-Fi adapters. Right, so now in Insider you could connect multiple external adapters, and you could leverage those external adapters to do more analysis, to capture more data, and to be able to actually get more data into the cloud as well.
Okay.
So what type of data are we talking about? So using those additional adapters, for instance, you could connect like a Wi-Fi Air. Right, the Wi-Fi Air also comes with like a USB-A or USB-C connection, so you can connect it to your laptop, and then the Wi-Fi Air will just be there to capture some packets. And in Insider, they look at the packets and they give you more information. So they tell you the channel utilization. So channel utilization, just like in Rampart, they look at the QBSS element of the beacon frame. If the AP is broadcasting that, if the AP is not broadcasting that, they look at the different packets. They look at the duration ID in the header, and then they calculate how much airtime will be used based on that. And then because it's Insider, they'll give you the list of all the APs, and what you can do is you can drill down into each access points, into each BSS, and so you can click on one BSS. By the way, if you have no idea what BSS and duration ID and all of that is, I'm sure you can find other episodes on the website, right? If you go to clearsend.net, if you click on the archive, if you click on the archive link and you can search basic service set and stuff like that, you'll find some interesting information. Anyway, so you can click on one BSS, and then for each BSS, you'll get a new page. And we actually included a screenshot in the show notes if you want to take a look at it. And then for each BSS, you'll get the different list of clients connected to that BSS, right? So now it's starting to get interesting, right?
Yeah.
And also what's interesting here is they keep doing their context-based scanning. So if you click on one specific BSS, the Wi-Fi, the adapter you use for your analysis will just scan that specific channel or the channel used by that BSS. So you will start getting even more data as you are looking at that specific BSS, right? And so the data you're getting is, data rates per clients, packets per clients, signal strength per clients, utilization per clients, right? And that was actually pretty cool. I think during the presentation, Jake Snyder next to me started a speed test, and then he could see the utilization of his clients going up on the screen as he was doing his speed test.
So they were showing you an actual demo, and somebody triggered more data to show up on that demo.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So that's very cool. It's very cool. And then when you do, if you have ever done, client troubleshooting, you know that feature could be huge, where you could just, set your insider and your adapter next to the client you're testing or next to the client you're troubleshooting. And then in real time, you can see the retry rate, you can see the signal strength, you can see the data rate. So if something is happening, if your clients never reaches the proper data rates, you can see it right away. And you can, you can analyze that right away without having to do a packet capture or something like that.
You can test out applications and see what that looks like over spectrum and looking at the data rate per client and start doing some sort of capacity test and be able to collect this data based on the applications that they're using. I think that it has a lot of there's a lot of capability there when it comes to troubleshooting and really analyzing what's going on with the Wi-Fi network based on each client and the type of applications they're using. So there's a lot of capability here. So a lot of potential.
There's one question I didn't ask is how many adapters can you use? How many additional external adapters can you use to collect data? That would be interesting to know. One or two should be sufficient, but
I would imagine it doesn't matter because if you upload it into Rampart, it would just combine all that data together.
Yeah.
And then you could see maybe the data per adapter that it captured on, because I'm assuming these adapters are not all, they're not all the same. They're not.
I'm not sure.
Calibrated in any way. So it'd be interesting to see the difference between adapters. And plus, if you're doing a pretty big, thorough test with multiple clients, you may want to put a couple adapters near other clients as well, and to get a better picture. Because as you collect data, you're going to hit some sort of limitation with the adapter as all that data is being transferred over the air, right? So it's probably going to miss some data. It won't be able to collect it all.
Yeah. So that's something we didn't talk about. So maybe in the future, as they, release a product, maybe we'll start getting more and more knowledge about that. So like I said, you can drill down into one specific BSS or one specific radio, but you can also drill down on one particular client, right? So let's say you're troubleshooting a client, you can actually click on that client, click on that MAC address. It's going to open a new page, the client page, and here you're going to see the evolution of the signal strength for that client, right? You can even
very nice. Okay.
Yeah, you can even capture a PCAP. All right, so you can leverage those additional Wi-Fi adapters to do a PCAP, and then maybe open that PCAP with IPA or upload it in Rampart. I'm guessing in the future, everything would be connected together, so you could upload it to Rampart and get some results right there in Rampart. That would be nice.
Maybe IPA could be cloud-based completely. It just does all the analysis for you.
You know what? That would solve the macOS issue.
Yeah.
Right there. Right there you saw. Are you guys listening, Metageek? it will solve the macOS issue.
I'd be interested to know if you're limited to only using Metageek's adapters. Like, what if I can use a Cisco AP to get higher resolution on the Spectrum, for example?
I don't know. I would say knowing them, probably not, but we'll see. We didn't talk about the list of adapters supported.
Yeah, I kind of assumed they're only supporting their adapters, but I want to recall that I've used a Cisco AP to get Spectrum data
in
Channelizer. So
yeah.
I wonder if we can still do that with these tools.
Well, here we'll just for this particular tool, I think it's only the Wi-Fi packets, the Wi-Fi information. So it's not really the Spectrum, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So it would be interesting
even for
to
packet
know.
Analysis, you could just get the PCAP, whichever method you want, and if you need to analyze it with Metageek's tools, you just upload it, and the tool can read the PCAP and be able to analyze it for you and give you that visualization.
Yes, that would be nice. Something they did talk about related to the PCAP is that the PCAP file can become quite big, quite fast. So they're saying that they don't really upload, all packets to the cloud. What they try to do is they try to be a little bit smart about it. So, for instance, if they detect a roaming event, if they detected that the client roamed, they will just save the PCAP for the roaming event, and then only keep that PCAP, and then you can upload that to the cloud. And instead of having gigs of PCAPs, it's like a few hundred packets. So it's the size of the files is much more manageable.
Yeah.
And since from their standpoint, since they're running the application in the cloud, they probably have to pay for every traffic that come in and out of their cloud.
Yeah.
So if they start uploading gigs of data,
that's a downfall of the cloud is the transport fees and the storage and all the access that needs to happen between us and the cloud. So like those costs increase for the company, and so those costs usually have to be brought back down to us, right, as we pay for the product.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so something else that they added to this new product is the ability that the software has to detect the model of APs and model of clients. So nowadays looking at the MAC address is not enough to know what type of device it is, right? The OUI is just shared sometimes between different manufacturers, and then you need a little bit more than just a MAC address to say it's an iPhone, a 7 or whatever. So they looked at some different techniques to detect and analyze what model it could be for the AP, both the AP and the clients. And these are techniques that are used in different areas, like they use it in IT security. And
sort of fingerprinting.
Fingerprinting, they have another term for it, but I'm not sure I can pronounce it properly with my accent. But if you look at the video, you can get the proper English term for that. And they're working on it, so when the software scan the environments and detect APs, they will be able to say it's a Cisco 2802i, and then that because this data would go back to the cloud, now they can correlate this data in between different customers and refine what model it is, and over time they can learn from it and make it more accurate.
Okay. Yeah, because that's going to be a challenge with all these chips being used by multiple devices. Then they all look like the same vendor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was pretty much Metageek at Mobility Field Day. I really enjoyed the presentation. It was very refreshing, a very genuine conversation we had with the guys, and I'm looking forward to see how the new products are being embraced by the people, the customers, the community, and see how we can leverage them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing the improvements on the new products they have, and even improvements on the existing products, because I think that's really what they're focusing on, is just improving that experience of their big products. I mean, they're not really spreading themselves thin by creating a lot of different products. They're sticking to like the 3 or 4 products, and then making that even better than it is today.
So if you guys want to have some visual on top of the podcast, the audio podcast, you can go on the show notes, cleartosend.net/188. We'll put some pictures so you can have an idea of what Rampart looks like, or what the new Insider looks like. And then you can also go to the different links that we put in the show notes if you want to watch the videos, if you want to take a look at the blog article posted by the other delegates and by Metageek themselves. So if you have any questions, feedback, don't hesitate to reach them out on Twitter, or send us a comment in the show notes, and then we'll be sure to relay the message back to them. Well, you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. I feel pretty good about Metageek, and just look forward to seeing what happens next.
Awesome. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you back next week. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.